Yeah. So the recording obviously stopped because my internet keeps going out. But you were talking about how Kira, right? That's her name,
Yes.
right? She was a Marine as well, and you're saying she did cooler things. Was she just better than you at
She got to go to Middle East. She got to go to Afghanistan, and that's what people think of, military is Middle East this and going to places, and she was there in the dirt doing that stuff. So I was more or less just, vacation. I went to Japan and Australia and had myself a nice little vacation.
Oh,
So
well, still, we commend you both, but she sounds like she's an awesome lady. So,
she is absolutely.
well, we're glad that you found her. Honestly, man, and again, I'm so happy you're on this podcast, Kyle, because
Yeah,
that
it's
also
about
just
time, I finally, it took everyone to have a really bad week for me to win. And that's just, hey.
yeah, we might get to the reason why you're on, why you said this week would be a good week. I don't know. We might get into get into that here in a moment, which we might as well because who knows what's going to happen with my internet, so we might as well kind of get this going. And Kyle, we'll try to be as brief as possible, knowing that time is fleeting and we have no idea what's going to happen. So we'll do that. All right. So let's get into this week 9 recap. So we will go over the week 9 matchups, starting with that ass whooping, and then going all the way down to our nail biters, which we actually had kind of a few, but not at the same time. It was a very weird week. Then we'll hit up the injury report with Dr. Sam. Waiver wire what to do's. Trade Central had a trade that went through, as well as somebody who has somebody to offer other people. Comment of the week, and then the week 10 matchup. So we will do that. All right. So let's get started here with the ass whooping of the week, which might be why you felt very comfortable to come on because it was you giving an ass whooping to Tyler. So kudos to you for A, delivering an ass whooping, and B, you got high point of the week. So you get 10 buckaroos back to use.
All right.
I know you're excited. So tell me about the game. What happened in this match?
Well, I mean, I made the mistake both years in a row. We get into this draft and everything, and I choose a quarterback first every time, and I really do like Josh Allen. So,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
decided that I wasn't gonna let anyone else have him this year too. And I mean he's been stressing me out this year. He's really been waiting until about after halftime to really start, getting them touchdowns, getting them bombs thrown, and he, plays kind of like Dak first half of the game, throwing a couple interceptions here and there and stuff. But I mean, he's got a cannon of an arm. Um,
yeah.
that other one, goes going down the list. I had to take Pollard. I know my dad likes Pollard, so I had to snag him up really quick. Um,
He
who
had
else
one of his
is
better,
here?
like I should say, he hasn't performed as well as he can. I
No,
don't. It's been a weird year for that man.
yeah, no, I mean, as much as I won't say Zeke was the best ever, but I think Zeke definitely brought a dynamic having those two in the backfield, being able to switch it up. I think Pollard kind of suffered a little bit with them taking Zeke out of there, but
Sure.
White. I mean, I watch White, and he just gets so many carries. And he's got to get some points sometime. He's always getting the ball, always touching it. So I was
Yep.
like, he's got to do something eventually. Waddle. I saw Waddle. I don't even remember what round I picked up in, but I knew that Hill was on that team too, and I kind of took the approach of, I'm hoping that someday they'll figure out Tyreek Hill and they'll be able to shut him down. And I was hoping that that's when Waddle would really
Yeah.
shine. So that's why I took him. Myers, I think I had him for a little bit last year too, if I remember correctly. He was good, but I mean this year he's doing a lot better.
Best year. I think it's been his best year of his
Yeah,
career so far, especially fantasy wise. He's been doing very well. That's a big pickup. And Taysom
absolutely.
Hill. You played Taysom Hill.
Yes, I sat him last week, and it was probably the worst thing I could have done. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't play Njoku, but I always thought,
And he did
he's,
well. He did well last week, so you
yeah,
were fine.
he burned his face up and everything, and it was questionable and all this and that. And I was like, he'll tough through it. But Taysom Hill, he came out, and I seen that he was getting so many carries, and I was like, well, I gotta play him if he's getting carries and getting receptions. I gotta play him. Hunt. I don't even know about Hunt. Hunt's just kind of my filler guy. I'm not gonna lie. It was between Hunt and Thomas. Michael Thomas, and I know how Baltimore's defense is. They're very stingy, not always through the entire game, but and Thomas has been like a kind of a lower floor, but he's consistent. He usually gets
Yeah.
about 8 points a game. He gets his receptions in.
Yep.
Uh,
True.
but I subbed him with Hunt this week, and it worked out all right, I guess.
Well, yeah, because he didn't score any points. Thomas didn't get any points at that point.
Exactly. I should have played
And
Dell. I got Dell in 2 leagues. I definitely should have played him. I just CJ Stroud, man, I didn't know he was going to be the guy he is. If I would have played Dell, I would have been, happier than ever with that. So
yeah, well, Dell didn't do as well last game either, so it's kind of tough to know what you were getting with that
exactly.
at that point too. But he had a huge game, and Saints D has been a good defense to have this whole year so far. Very consistent defense, a good defense, and in a good division there with some younger quarterbacks that can definitely turn the ball over.
Exactly.
Plus a Baker Mayfield who's known to do the same. So, so yes, I you got a nice squad, man, and it's finally nice to see. Like, in really the last few weeks, when we get into next week's matchups, like your matchup, I think is with Casey, and both of you are kind of running hot right now. So we'll touch on that a little bit later. But good to see you moving. Tyler, not so much. But Tyler would have beat a few of us. Like he would have beat me. He'd have beat, I think, even Casey, who won his matchup against Allison. So he'd have beat Allison. But he had a pretty rough go, and nobody really on his bench that could have helped him out in any way, shape, or form. So kind of a tough go for him this week. Joe Burrow and Josh Allen literally had the same exact point total. So I thought
Hmm.
that was kind of cool. They both scored 28.32 points. So that matchup that we talked about last week of Cincy versus Buffalo being kind of that deciding factor, they ended up like kind of evening out a little bit when it came to that. But yeah, nice performance. Way to whoop on him a little bit. Sorry, Tyler. But now Tyler is at a point where he's got 8 losses. He's got a 1% chance to make the playoffs, is what ESPN is saying. That's what they've at least claimed for him. But we'll move on to another game. So the next game up was the next like widest point margin of victory. Yet Casey, I believe, is the lowest point total of a victory, which is under 80 points. That's kind of tough to do, but it's easy to do when your opponent only scores 56 points. Really bad. And I will say the Monday night game, which is actually a big game for this matchup, because it was she had Herbert and Parham, so her quarterback and tight end were going, and his quarterback and Brees Hall, his top running back, were going. So it was actually a really important game, and the Chargers won handedly, but yeah, her point total amongst the two, Herbert and Parham, was 5.74 points combined with those two. So a little tough there. Anything that you noted as far as what might have been the separator between these two?
Oh, I mean, I really couldn't tell you, because I really like Swift. I got Swift in another league. I had tried getting AJ Brown from a trade, and it didn't work out very well for me, but I had tried. But honestly,
Yeah,
I think it's just one of those weeks. You got Puka. I mean, he's an animal.
man. Yeah,
He didn't shock the world like he's been doing these last couple weeks. So
I know. And that one's tough. And you're right. It was a tough week all around. I will say that, Kyle. It was a tough week all around for fantasy football. So even if you lost, like, shoot, even if you won, like Casey won and he had less than 80 points, he probably doesn't feel great. But at the end of the day, you're like, hey, I won. So that helps. But shoot, from him, Kelsey only got less than 3 points. He got 3 points from Kelsey. That's
mhm.
not normal. So that also hurt him. But yeah, kind of a just a low game. The only thing I'll say for Casey moving forward that's helpful is for Alexander Madison with Cam Akers going out with his injury and that's out for the year. That puts Alexander Madison back up and getting more touches. So that's even more help for Casey kind of moving forward to make him a tougher team moving forward as well. Next up, we have Glenn versus Bob. So that's Eki versus Bob's Bandwagon. And to our surprise from last week, Louie and I both thought that Bob was going to take this handily. And Glenn, I mean, shoot, he came out, got some great performances on there, and then including why I think Herbert and everybody else was down in the passing game. He had Austin Eckler who finally came out for him and scored him 23 points. Ramondre Stevenson with 23, Amari with 23, Cole Kmet with 20. Those kinds of numbers can really help you out here. Anything that
Absolutely.
you
I
might
love to
have
see Amari
noted?
Cooper do well. I really do.
You say you like to see him do well?
Amari Cooper, I love to see him do well. Yep. I thought that was a death sentence sending him to Cleveland, but I love seeing him do good.
A death sentence for Amari or for
Yeah.
your Cowboys?
Well, no, I thought, well, I truly thought, I truly think he belongs in Dallas, but they sent him to
Yeah,
Cleveland. And, I thought that was a loss on both sides, truly. But
sure. And it kind of is. I mean, I don't. Cleveland's just been a weird team on
mhm.
offense, right? Like it's tough to peg them for anything. It is good to see him do well because remember when he came out of college? Because he did he go to Alabama? Did he go to Alabama or
Oh,
Oklahoma?
I couldn't tell you
I
exactly.
think
No,
he
I
was.
thought,
I think he came from Alabama. But when he came out, like I was a huge fan, and I wasn't even a big college fan, but I had seen enough of his tape to just think like this guy's a man. Like he is coming in. He is a man. And the funny part is he's still young. He's only like 28 or 29, but he's been in the league for like 8 or 9 years. Like he was young when he came in the league, and he's already been on 3 teams. He's been great for all 3 teams he's played for. So yeah, I'm a big Cooper fan. I think he's underrated for how good of a wide receiver he is. Uh, Defensively, the Ravens are still a great defense. They put up 15 points. I think they're still number 2 in the fantasy football as far as the defense goes. So that's helpful for Bob. But Tyreek and Tua had down games. They combined for 20 points. Normally, Tyreek is scoring more than 20 just himself. So
mhm.
that also definitely hurt Bob in this outing. But Kate Otten did pretty well. I don't know if that's going to continue. It was a high scoring game, but yeah, either way, it was kind of a rough go for Bob. So nice job, Glenn. Way to get back in that win column because Glenn was kind of on a down, going downhill a little bit there. All right, next up. God, I hate this game. It was me versus Andy, and Andy took it. And again, another game where Andy doesn't even score 90, and he still beats me. It's just a rough one. What I will say from my end of being in the game, I know Lamar Jackson has not been great for fantasy football the past couple weeks, but his team is winning and they're playing good football, and he's even playing well. It's just that he hasn't had to do so much. Like Gus Edwards has gotten like all the touchdowns the last couple of games. So that's been really hurting me from once I got the trade done. But my defense, Cleveland put up 23 points. That was huge. So that's always going to be big. So our defenses, I was beaten by 27 points technically on defense, but man, he just whooped me. CD Lamb took my lunch money. Uh, Anything that you saw from this matchup as to why Andy may have actually beat me?
It's got to be, Lamb. I think he finally went out there, and I love Lamb too, but I don't trust Dak at all. So I mean, even if any of their receivers, I just wouldn't trust it. I'm okay with Pollard because the Dak can't really fumble it giving it to Pollard or throw a pick doing that. So,
But
but
Dak's been good for a couple weeks in a row now.
yeah, he's getting up there, but I don't know. It's just something about when it comes down to crunch time with him. I always feel like he just wants to run it. He just looks stressed out when it comes down to crunch time. I feel like he just wants to take off running it down the middle again when he knows he needs about 40 yards to win.
And obviously CD is going to go the way that Dak goes. And past 2 weeks, Dak has been greatly improved, and so has CD Lamb. Right at that point, like CD Lamb has had 2 great weeks in a row, and that follows suit with Dak. So you're right. Like how Dak goes will be how CD Lamb goes, and
Mhm.
you and your dad are not big Dak fans, and you guys actually get to watch Cowboy games. So I trust your opinion on those because I don't watch it enough to know what's happening. They're winning games. What are they 5-3 now or
Yeah, they got it.
six and
Yeah,
three?
yeah. I think it's 6-3. I think if I don't know. I just watched it, but I should know, but I can't remember off the top of my head. But I mean, those games are such a roller coaster. I mean, Dallas had it on their side of the field and got so many flags, put them inside the red zone, and then they're going backwards again, and it was just a roller coaster for what they had to do.
Is their
Never
offensive
the 2 minute
lines
drill worked for them.
is their offensive line still one of the tops in the NFL, or have they kind of fallen? Because 2 to 3 years ago, the Dallas offensive line was the number one line in the league at that point.
Well, I mean, you got Martin in there. I mean, he's a very good, I think, guard. I think he's probably one of the better ones they can get. But that's in the dynamic, I think, of getting rid of Zeke because that was their offense. You know, you could give it to Zeke and get an inside zone going, and
Yeah,
he could do what he needed to do, and he always fell forward when he got hit. That's just kind of how it was with him. But
yeah.
uh, and he's not a bad. He's still doing good. I had him for a while, and I still think I still do have him, but he's not, starting material, but he's consistent. He's been consistent being a second string for New England. So
Yeah, and they've kind of flopped, like the Dallas has kind of flip flopped that because it used to be more Zeke on the early downs, and you get Pollard maybe a little bit later, and then they'd mix it up a little bit. But now you've got Dowdle, who would technically be more of that Zeke style, but they flipped it to where Pollard is now the main guy, which makes sense. I mean, I think Pollard's a more talented guy than Dowdle, but they got to really figure out that side of it because Pollard just isn't getting it done with how they're utilizing him. And I don't know if it's because hey they're way up, they don't need him as much, or what they're doing. But yeah, it's been tougher to see Pollard not doing as well. All right, well, congrats, Andy. You beat me. I will throw in here that I beat him in daily fantasy football this week, so that's $5 more into my pocket. So I'll at least say that. All right, let's move on to the nail biter of the week. It was your dad, Louie. So him and EJ, they played, and it was a close matchup. And actually, both scored well for this week. Both had the second and the third highest point total of the week. They just happened to play each other, and that means, Louis ends up losing. No, I get sorry. They had third and second and fourth. So Louis had the fourth highest total. I forgot Glenn scored 111, so he eked out Louis, but still kind of tough to lose when you feel like you had one of the better scores of the week. Anything in here that you noted as far as what might be the difference between these two?
no, I'll get to that. But have you ever watched a game between two people and kind of wish that they just both lose? Because that was my week here. Because I got 160 points put on me by these two fellas right here, and one
Oh,
other as
both yeah,
well.
both did it to you, didn't they?
Both
They both.
I've had 160 put on me three times this season. So this is one of those games that, it would have been I wish they both would have lost a little bit, but hey, it came down to the wire and I'm sure they were both stressing a little bit. So that's all I can ask for.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. They had similar to you and Tyler. They had two QBs dueling against each other,
Mhm.
and at the end of the day, I think the cool part is like that's how they lost. I mean, that literally was the game because Dak outscored Jalen by 5 points and EJ wins by three. So there you go. If that flips and it's Jalen Hurts outscoring Dak by five, Louis wins. So pretty close matchup. Both solid teams, both making pretty good moves. I mean, I know um, I thought it was very sound reasoning for him to bench DJ Moore, and it made actual sense. Like it worked out for him. It wasn't a big boost by DK, but it was certainly a better play to have DK in over DJ Moore. You'd like to see more from Pacheco on Louis' side. I just feel like you're always looking for more from him. And on EJ's side, though, Cooper Cup didn't have. I mean, Rippin looked terrible. They actually have already released him. I don't know if you knew that. The LA Rams already let go of Brett Rippin, and they have signed Carson Wentz.
Oh, I did. Yeah, I see Wentz sign. Yep.
Yeah, so Carson Wentz. So I'll probably add Carson Wentz into the waiver wire piece when we get there because he's not in it. But they did just add Carson Wentz to that and drop Brett Rippon. That's how bad Rippon was for the LA Rams as quarterback. They saw one game, they're like, yeah, that ain't gonna do it for us. And they already cut his ass. Oh man. I feel for him, but yeah, this is a close matchup. Good battle between two good teams. Both are now first in their division. So even though Louis has had some down weeks, I think he's lost at least two of his last three. I think he's lost two of his last three games. But he's still in first based on points, And then EJ took on first with this win and a Sam loss, and that's what's given him kind of the lead on points because they're both in a division where the top two teams are at 6-3. So still a nice job, you guys. Good close matchup, and you're first in your division. So nice job for the game of the week. And then lastly, we'll get into the last nail biter. I just kind of ruined the lead there by saying Sam lost, but Zach did overtake Sam. I mean, I guess Zach's little blow up there of getting frustrated. Fantasy gods heard him and helped him out with this victory between him and Sam. I think this is the one I called the Ricky Bobby last week, where Sam was first and obviously Zach was last. Zach ends up taking it. But with only 91 points, it wasn't a great showing. But hey, it got the job done in a time when you're like, I just want to get a W. Anything that you're seeing as to why maybe where the difference lies or why Zach may have overtaken Sam?
No, well, I was looking at it and I was watching it happen real time because I was watching Allen and I was like, well, he's gonna win it because I was looking, the Bills defense was starting to work against him there and starting to work for, the other
Yeah,
team. So I was watching it and I was like, it was a nail biter there. But
yeah.
no, other than that, I mean, I can't even tell you I watch Mulchi's game. Like I said, Hulu, I get like three on Sunday, and so a lot of these players, I haven't actually sat down and like truly watched them even complete a drive this year. So I'm
And
always on there
it's
on the stats watching, trying to look for trends in them and stuff. So
yeah, it's tough. I think it's tough to watch all that. Even if you had like all the games, it's still tough to get them all in. I was able to watch a good amount of this game, and to me, the only thing that I would say, and Sam even highlighted it, is I would definitely not play the Bills defense if I have two players going against that defense. Because to me, you're minimizing your ceiling. Now,
mhm.
technically, Jamar Chase and Joe Mixon, I think when Sam played me, like they combined for a lot more points, like together. This week they only combined for 24 points, so it wasn't even great on their side. But the Bills' defense also didn't do well.
Yeah,
So
you don't want to let them go either because you don't know who's going to pick them up. So I mean, you
right,
get the Bills and the 49ers there. So I'd probably try to pick them up if you didn't have them. So
yeah, and
you didn't. So.
you're right, and it gets to, like those are the calls that you kind of have to make throughout the year, right? To see if this is is this a victory or not. And based on how much he lost by, probably not a victory because not many defenses are going to be able to get you the 10 points, on a week. But I mean, the Chiefs got Zach 14 against a tough Miami team that's got a good offense, but yeah, that's a tough call. But I'll just say for me, I don't like to play. I'll never play my quarterback against my defense. So I will always find a different defense. I had to do that this past week because I had the New York Jets on a team where I also had Justin Herbert. So I'm like, well, I can't play Herbert and Parham against the Jets D. It's going to just cap my ceiling at that point. But that's why I don't do it because it caps your ceiling because it's rarity that the defense does great and the two players going against that defense do great. Like it's a tough to do that. But yeah, ultimately Zach got the victory. He's now 3-6, so he's probably feeling better because I think he's won 2 of the last 3 weeks. Sam is on a little bit of a downslide. He's got to get a quarterback back. Hope Justin Fields might be back, but it's a Thursday game they're playing, so I don't even know if he'll get his starting QB back yet. So he might be looking for another answer besides Kenny Pickett. I don't know, but when we get to waiver wire QBs, Kyle, maybe we'll see if we can find him somebody on the scrap heap. There we'll get into it. But that wraps us up for the week 9 matchups. Congrats to all of those who were able to get a victory during this week 9. This I guess all these uh games, and for those who didn't, this was a tough week. Take your loss. It is okay. Trust me, like it was a very low scoring week for most. I think we only had 4 teams over 100 points, whereas last week it was like the opposite. I think there's only like 4 teams under 100 points. So that's just how it goes at times. But again, congrats to those who won in week 9, and for those who didn't, let make week 10 better, like me. Now we're going to get into our injury report, but before we do that, We got another sponsor, Kyle. I'm telling you, they're just raining. They're just raining from the sky with how popular this podcast is, how much they love it. And this week's sponsor is Louis Licho Lunch Lounge. At Louis Licho Lunch Lounge, you'll never take an L. Whether it's ribeye, ribs, rib tips, or prime rib, Louis brings the meat. His tasty tenderloin, tender turkey, and tongue tickling T-bone should touch your table tonight. Ask about Louis' sides and he'll tell you more about meat. Mac and cheese, mashed peas, or mixed greens? Miss the menu. But New York strip, Boston butt, or Maine lobster can be destinations for your appetite. When the stakes are high, Louis isn't, so have him prepare it for you. And if you decide to order a steak cooked longer than medium rare, Louis will come by your table and punch-a-size your face for fucking free. So call to make your reservation today at Louis Licho Lunch Lounge and leave lunch to Louis. Wow, what a sponsor, Kyle. Oh, man. Thank you, Louis. I mean, Louis hopped on last week and he was like, you know what? I've got a really cool business that could use your help. And I said, Louis, you are right. Because as you know, Kyle, Louis packs the meat. I mean, ask your mom, okay? Louis packs the meat. But we won't go on to that anymore. I don't want to get too deep into that for you, Kyle. You know, birds and the bees, and you're here and all that stuff. But anyways, we have Dr. Sam. And this week is actually even more interesting because Dr. Sam has been able to join us live. Oh my God. Dr. Sam, you're right.
Hello, friends. What's going on?
Oh, not much. We feel blessed. Say hi to my co-host.
Hey, Kyle. How's it going?
How you doing?
Nice to see you.
Yes, I'm finally on here.
Yeah.
I can't wait to listen to the whole thing.
Well, hopefully you heard your sponsor,
I did hear the sponsor. So I'm hoping for some money and some steaks coming my way soon.
Now that's true. Dr. Sam, have you approved of a lot of the sponsors that I'm getting for this program?
Yeah, hey, money is money, right? I like a lot of them that are coming my way. I'm hoping maybe Louis, whatever, the steak lounge can supply some cooking for convicts with Andy. Maybe there's some joint ventures, whatever keeps rolling my way.
Bro code.
No,
Bro
that's
code
broken.
helping. God. Kyle, are you a part of Bro Code, by the way?
No, I'm leaving that to them. That's something that they got going on. So I'll just let them do that part.
Okay. All right. Well, Dr. Sam, we're not going to interrupt you anymore. Appreciate you joining us live because of how important this injury report was. And
Yeah,
I appreciate that. So we'll
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 get
let you take it away.
We'll get right into it, and hopefully I can read my handwriting here. All right, so we got Daniel Jones, quarterback for the Giants with a torn ACL. He will be out for the season. Cam Akers, running back now for the Vikings with a torn Achilles, will also be done for the season. Christian Watson, wide receiver for the Green Bay Packers. They're listing him as a chest back and potential concussion. Looks like he kind of landed on the ball. Reports are saying that he doesn't look like he has a concussion, so we'll just be checking practice plans this week. KJ Osborne, wide receiver for the Vikings, looks like he got a concussion, so likely will be back week 11. Dallas Goedert, tight end for the Eagles, has a forearm fracture. Looks like it's non-displaced, which is better, but he'll still probably spend about 5 weeks on the IR. Mac Hollins, wide receiver for the Falcons, looks like he had a setback with his ankle. Reports are saying they're a little bit concerned, so he may be sitting out another week. Jalen Waddle, wide receiver for the Dolphins, looks like he has a mild MCL sprain. There should be really no lingering effects when he comes back from the bye week. Josh Downs, wide receiver for the Colts, looks like it was not a new injury, just the continuation of the past knee injury. So looks like they're going to try him in practice and see if he'll be ready to go this week. Josh Palmer, wide receiver for the LA Chargers, looks like he's gonna be placed on the IR for a knee sprain. Jamar Chase, wide receiver for the Bengals, looks like he's listed day to day with the back injury. If he does play, there will probably be a performance dip for him. And then Jalen Hurts, quarterback for the Eagles, looks like a kind of mild MCL sprain with a re-aggravation of the bone bruise. But he has the bye week coming up here, so he should be okay coming out of that. Then just a couple things that I noted here. It looks like for a lot of the injuries coming back, Justin Fields should have a low stats drop, but a moderate re-injury rate. Looks like James Conner and Devon Achane should be back to full strength with low re-injury rates. Khalil Herbert coming back should have about a 15% kind of productivity drop. Justin Herbert should be back to baseline by week 10 or 11. Matt Stafford looks like there should be back about week 11 with performance drop. Drake London has about a 10% re-injury rate, as does Justin Jefferson with a 10% re-injury rate. Deebo Samuel should be full go, and it looks like David Montgomery should have about a 10% production hit coming back this week from those injuries. That is
Great
all.
job, Dr. Sam. Thank you for that information. You said Matt Stafford, like is he looking to play? You said week 11. And one of the things that
I
Kyle
think
and
they have
I touched on was that like Brett Rippon was released. My internet again.
You're still good over here.
Yeah, I see you.
Do you? Okay, y'all got
Yeah.
frozen for a moment. I'm like, this freaking yep, says your internet connection's unstable. But Brett Rippon they released and they signed Carson Wentz, which makes me feel like that Matt Stafford coming back in week 11 doesn't feel as right as what, like with that kind of move. What do you like?
Yeah, I mean he's a little older, so I mean he is kind of injury prone, so they might just be looking in case he re-aggravates it. But I think because I think they have the bye this week, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so I think they're planning for him to play, but probably just looking for a more feasible backup, maybe.
Yeah, and that's a good point too. Like with them having that bye week, it'll offer some time for that thumb to heal up for Matt Stafford a
Yeah,
little bit. It's a thumb, correct?
yeah,
For
I
Stafford?
believe so.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because he got it hit a few times
yeah. I
in
think
that.
it was just a sprain though. It was just they just said it was a UCL sprain, which is typically like somewhere between 2 to 4 weeks, depending. And so they probably held him out, give him the bye week, hope he's good, and if not, they might give Carson Wentz a go for like a week.
Man, I jammed my middle finger in some 14 in softball like a month and a half ago. I'm still re-aggravating that fucker every once in a while. God damn. Like this sucks. I'm like old. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm probably Stafford's age, I think. Who knows? I don't know. All right. Well, thank you, Dr. Sam.
Yep.
We appreciate you
Enjoy the
hopping
rest of the
on.
show, gentlemen.
Yep, thank you.
Yeah, you'll get to watch it later.
Sounds good. See ya.
Well, that's always nice when he can come on and share his wisdom with us.
Absolutely. Knows his stuff.
He does. He does. And I probably take advantage sometimes. I try not to too often, just because I know, I don't want to like inundate somebody who does that for his job. But, I'll get some injuries here and there and might reach out to Dr. Sam just to say, hey, man, this is what's going on. I know Allison does. Shit, she still got stuff on like WebMD up on the internet about her shoulder. It's weird. Anyways, anywho, all right. After hearing that injury report, we are off to then discuss the waiver wire. We're going to start with our waiver wire quarterbacks. This is the list. These six gentlemen right here. Any of them that you like or that you would play?
Oh, actually play? I mean, no, I can't say. I'm surprised Bryce Young hasn't gotten hurt yet because he gets beat up out there sometimes. Out there. I don't, I can't say I'd play. I don't even know who Tommy DeVito is either.
It's Danny's son.
Yeah, yeah, okay. But if he looks anything like Danny, then no, I don't want to. I don't want to play.
He's 5'1", so he's a little bit taller than Danny DeVito. Uh, but yeah, that's a tough one. Yeah, I don't know if there's anybody on here that I love. Taylor Heineke, I would tell you, yeah, just because he's going against the Arizona Cardinals and they suck. I mean, they are not a they are not a good defense, so that could be one. And oddly enough, like the other one I would say might be Bryce Young, and that's again like the only reason I'm calling either of these guys out is because their matchup is against bad defenses, and the Bears are another bad defense. So like, could be, but I'm hoping everybody has a different option already that they can use because you are correct, Kyle. No, want to play? No, I don't want to play any of these fuckers. All right, let's move on to running backs. Any of them here that you want to play or add to your team as a backup option or anything?
No, I'd like Gibson. I would let Gibson sit on my bench for a while. I already had Murray. I think I already done kicked him off. Can't say he was terrible though. I mean, he's out there. It's just kind of inconsistent. And I mean, Josh Allen, they said that too. He really likes passing the ball around. He likes getting it around to a lot of people, which I mean, the
Yeah,
Chiefs are the same way, which is, if it's not Mahomes or I thought Kelsey was number one too. And then I mean Pacheco kind of took over his spot. I think he finally got that running back spot unlocked. But the Chiefs, they stressed me out. All the player. I mean, I was stuck with all the syllable guys last year, Valdez Scantlin, the other one, I was stuck with them all last year, and they were,
yeah, Edwards-Helaire.
yeah, they were all. Edwards-Helaire was good. I did receive him from my father for someone else, and then he just, I
Yeah,
don't know what he did. He must have got a concussion or something, and they just didn't, report it because he started doing real bad once he got on my team.
yeah, man, he just like went way down at some point.
Yeah.
Yeah. On this list, like I don't it's I would agree with you about Gibson. What people may not even realize is that Gibson scored 7 or more points in I think 4 of his last 5 games. So it's not great, but it's at least A, better than projection, and B, as we all have seen, like you get some of these bye weeks and you're trying to fill in. Shoot, during a bye week, I will take a guy that's going to give me 7 to 10 points in that moment rather than two. We see some of these games that are decided by that. So I think that Gibson's a good one. Jaleel McLaughlin is still out there. I mean, I think one of these he would be the Denver running back I would go after outside and Javon. And I think Jaleel is kind of underneath Antonio Gibson in that. So I think Jaleel's getting around 5.5 to 6 a game. That's not bad. Cam Akers just went down, and that's for the Minnesota Vikings. But I'm not going to tell anybody to go get Ty Chandler, the backup running back for Minnesota, just because he didn't. They got Cam Akers middle of the season because Ty Chandler was not good enough as the backup running back, right? So does that give you confidence that he's going to get back into that? Latavius Murray, who's at the top, well, they just signed Leonard Fournette to basically, in my opinion, take on Latavius Murray's role because I don't know that Murray, as you mentioned, like he's getting some points, but just because he's in there, he's a good pass blocker, and so he gets in. But if you watch him, he's just not there. And the only last one I'm going to mention, Kyle, and it's again for the trap. Keaton Mitchell at the bottom. So Keaton Mitchell had over 100 yards for the Ravens this past week. He got fewer touches than any other running back. He only got in when it was finally like they were way up and it was the second half. And so at the end of the day, like just don't chase the fool's gold. That was a young running back getting some run, unless they're going to blow somebody out again, and you know it, and it ain't going to be Cleveland. But unless they're going to blow somebody else out, I wouldn't trust that guy. So this is just another week of pick your backup, but I do like Antonio Gibson. Somebody's looking at Antonio Gibson or Jaleel McLaughlin, even Rico Dowdle for the chance that you know Pollard goes out. That's still a really good offense. So he's one that if y'all are noticing, I keep picking him up and dropping him every week because I get a spot open. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna pick up Rico because this might be the week that Pollard goes down, and never happens. So I just put him right back out there into the waivers. But now we'll move on to the wide receivers. We have a long list, and again, I kind of leave the guy at the bottom to talk about potential traps. But anybody on here that you might like?
Um, look here. Well, Wood. So I don't remember what Wood's um his injury designation was, but
For
I know he
Robert
was.
Woods.
Yeah.
So I don't know what he was out for, but his style of play isn't one where even if it was like a significant leg injury, as you know, he's kind of a short route guy. He's not a quick burst kind of guy anyway. So I don't know that I would go into it. But yeah, I don't know his injury designation, but he could be an okay guy to grab if he's feeling better.
And I would simply do it just because of Shroud. So
Sure.
that just having him out there maybe get some good. I got Dell. Well, yeah, I do have Dell, so I probably wouldn't. But
But
it's tempting to want to when a quarterback goes out there and puts up 52 points. You kind of want the people who are around him. But
yeah, and that's true too, because we'll get into the tight end spot here where we have Dalton Schultz that's actually on waivers, who might be a good one to pick up. But for me, one of the things I think Robert Woods has been out for 2 weeks, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's like 2 weeks in a row. And you'll notice that in those 2 weeks is when Dalton Schultz has gotten more passes, so he's become a greater target. And Noah Brown this past week had over 100 yards. But again, Robert Woods wasn't there, so Noah Brown got some run. I don't know if that means that Robert Woods gets less passes now and they like Noah Brown more, because you know Noah Brown from the Cowboys. I mean, he actually did a serviceable job as like a backup wide receiver for them when they needed a guy, so he's not a bad player. I like Noah Brown. I don't know why he doesn't get enough run. I mean, you might know more than me, but
no, I haven't followed him since he left.
for the Cowboys, he seemed like he was a good player. Like he seemed like he was good.
Yeah, I mean they definitely got him the ball, and he did what he was supposed to do, but definitely not a breakout
Sure,
start, and he might be a flex every once in a while, but
sure. Yeah, and other than that, like on this list, I don't know if there's anybody that, like stands out where I'm like, oh yeah, you got to get that guy. I think Jonathan Mingo is looking better for Carolina. Like he's gotten better, and he's a rookie, so that should happen. Um, People have mentioned like Odell Beckham Jr. is starting to get better, and he was coming off an injury. Is he really, or is he just an old man? He's going to show flashes every once in a while, and one of my I'm not really messing around with him, so I don't know that I love anybody that's on this list, because even the guys I might like, look at how many New York Giants receivers are on there, but their quarterback's now out. So why would you want any of them? And
exactly.
stuff like that. So who knows? Rondale Moore, he might be a good one with Kyler Murray potentially coming back. So maybe Rondale Moore for Arizona plays better. I don't know. It's kind of tough, but nobody I'm really loving in the wide receivers. I didn't love any quarterbacks this week. I didn't really love any running backs. I didn't really love any wide receivers. But I do like a few of these tight end options. I mentioned Dalton Schultz before, and he's got the highest projected point total. I just caution people of Robert Woods is probably coming back, so that takes away some of those. He does a lot of the same stuff that Dalton Schultz does, so it might take away some of that. But anybody on here that you might like as a tight end?
I mean Schultz, former Cowboy, I think I might have already checked him out a little bit this week or this morning, really.
Yeah.
But other than that, no, I mean I finally got my big win, so this might be the week that I just kind of leave it alone and
Hey,
let it roll. So
I get you there too. That actually that makes sense. Like,
yeah,
hey, I got my squad. It's going well. Uh,
exactly.
Luke Musgrave, I think, is a good one. He had unfortunately, it was just a good drive against a team that's not as great against the tight end. But Luke Musgrave's a rookie, talented, could be there. And Jawan Johnson, he got a touchdown pass from Taysom Hill. It was Taysom Hill that threw him the touchdown pass. So your tight end threw the other tight end on his team a touchdown. So that's kind of cool. But Jawan Johnson's always a touchdown machine. I mean, I think last year he had like 8 or 9 touchdown catches, and that's really good for a tight end. So I think Jawan Johnson even could be a play, especially against Minnesota, whose defense is like they're good against the run, but they're not good against the pass. So he might even be a good option there too. So a few tight ends for anybody that's actually looking for one this week. I know Casey's going to be looking for one this week with having Travis Kelsey out. And others just may have had poor performances from tight ends that they just don't want to deal with right now. But that was the waiver wire for those folks who need the help. Now let's move on to Trade Central. We had a trade that happened in our league this week. I know some already shared their input on it, and if they saw the actual games, they might change that input that they shared, considering Tyler Algier will probably be looked at as like the worst player, and he scored 12.5 points, whereas Devontae Adams only got me 5.5, and Zay Flowers only got Casey like 1.5. So it was made I was trying to take a stab at Devontae Adams maybe getting back to being better this year with a different quarterback. It did not work out so well for that. And then Casey was looking for more depth and to get rid of Adams. Honestly, it's kind of over it. I think this is now 5 weeks in a row, Kyle, where Adams has not hit double digits. 5 weeks in a row.
Yeah.
That's tough. It is a tough one. But that's the trade that happened. And then I am going to throw out what Allison threw out, which is Josh Dobbs. So if you're in need of a quarterback, Allison has Josh Dobbs. I don't know if you got to watch any of those highlights at all from that Minnesota game, or if you saw any of it.
Well, yeah, and then
But
they throw to that he's a rocket scientist as well. So he got it all
is he
going on.
is he really?
He absolutely is. He's a scientist.
Well, that would make sense as to why he could probably come in anywhere and figure it out. Because that's what he did this past week, for the most part. So yeah, if you're in need of a quarterback, she's got Josh Dobbs, especially for somebody who maybe had Kirk Cousins or has one of the Vikings wide receivers. It might be a good quarterback to go to. He is a mobile guy, so actually I think he's rushed for like he's had at least 6 or 7 rushing attempts in pretty much almost every game since like week 1 or 2. That right there is going to give you a baseline, and he gets good yards. So he already gives you like a baseline just on his running of like 4 or 5 points, and then he adds on to that. I put a note in here. Allison didn't give me this tidbit. I did because I kind of remembered from the beginning of the year. I don't know if anybody remembers this, but if you were to remove his first game of the year, which was a negative points, he got negative points in his first game. So what people don't maybe realize is that Josh Dobbs was not on the Arizona Cardinals roster in the preseason. Like he didn't sign even with the Arizona Cardinals until like the week before the season was to start, like the actual regular season. So he was kind of put on as this like last minute. We obviously don't have Kyler, and these other guys suck, and so they grabbed Josh Dobbs. So that's why I'm kind of removing that first game because he wasn't even in on an NFL team at the time when he got taken by them. So if you throw that out, he's averaging over 21 points a game. Like it's actually pretty good. So could be a good quarterback for somebody that's looking for another quarterback option or somebody to pair, like I said, with a Jordan Addison. Maybe they have a TJ Hawkinson. Well, I guess EJ probably doesn't need him. I don't know. But yeah, in case you're interested, Josh Dobbs is out there. Kyle, anybody out there on your team? Any trade stuff you want to throw out there?
Oh, I never know. I mean, that Commander's quarter, that Howell, he's definitely doing good. I don't think he's, gonna take Allen's spot away from him, but he's on my team and he's doing pretty good. I mean,
So would you trade him if somebody was interested in a quarterback?
probably. I don't know for who though. I mean, I'd have to really look it over, but I could probably let him go.
Yeah. Because I don't know. Because when you pick him up, Sam Howell's he actually is a good quarterback. I like him. I like watching the guy even play. He gets sacked a lot, but it's because their offensive line is not good. So I feel bad for him. But if you watch him, man, he is gritty. He makes smart plays. He actually evades like the rush a lot. He breaks tackles in the rush. Like people don't realize, like even when he's throwing interceptions, it's because he's fucking running for his life. He's trying to just like do something. And I think he's doing a heck of a job for what he's been presented with. So yeah, Sam Howell, that's a good one. So that could be another quarterback. And I got Kyler Murray. He hasn't played it down yet in this season, so I don't know who he's going to be. But if somebody's interested in Kyler Murray, come find me. I'm gonna play Lamar Jackson. You're gonna play Josh Allen. Like these guys aren't getting benched for these other guys. I don't know. Kyler Murray is good enough though to bench potentially Jackson if he starts to play well. So who knows? We'll see. But that is Trade Central this week. So thank you, Allison, for throwing it out. Anybody, please throw me a player if you got a guy where you're like, hey, he's doing really well. I just won't ever use him, and you like to get value for him. Let me know. I'll put him on Trade Central. Now, comment of the week. Kyle, you said you had not seen it because it was
No,
not
that link
loading
did
for
not
you.
open for me. I definitely missed out on this.
You're going to have to open it somehow, Kyle. So maybe forward that to your email or something. I don't know. But it was
Absolutely.
definitely Glenn, the owner of Glenn's Brewcades, PSA. to the FFFL, and it really was, Kyle, I'm not kidding, probably the best comment we'll ever get because it was a video. It was like a good minute and a half video. That was pretty funny. So, Glenn, kudos to you for your witty way to respond to the league and also to win. So he did a good job winning even after sending that comment. So kudos to you, Glenn. All right, now let's finish off like we always do, Kyle, with the Week 10 matchups. Before we hop in, we got to go over the standings. Our standings in the East didn't change. So we got some victory. I mean, I think it was about even with victories. You won, Glenn won, Zach won. But all of us at the top, we lost. So it kind of just condensed our division, man. I mean, 6-3 to 3-6. That's all. Like one next week matters a lot, right? With our standings. On the West, they still have disparity, but look at them. There's 3 teams at 6-3 in there. Like 3 teams at 6-3. Casey got a W, EJ got a W, and that actually takes Sam off of the number 1 spot in the West. He's now number 2 in the West because those are ranked based off of points. And then we have a couple others down. So you're going to have that 1, 2, 3. They're going to be in the 1, 2, 3 at least even after next week. We'll just have to see where they kind of land for that. And unfortunately, Tyler's still at the bottom, bud. Sorry about you, man. Maybe next year your team won't get injured all the time. I have no idea, no clue. But now let's get into the actual matchups. So we're going to start with not experts. They're not experts at this sport. But Andy and Zach. To me, this is a rivalry. I think this is such a rivalry right here of Andy and Zach. You know, they hop on the podcast a lot, Kyle. And I feel like, you know, they both have differing opinions on a lot of stuff. Like they would play the game differently in a lot of ways. So to me, I love this matchup because it really is, you know, in my mind, I think it's a rivalry. Maybe they don't, but I definitely do. Andy's got all the check marks, pretty much. I mean, besides court, and somehow Baker Mayfield is edging out Trevor Lawrence. It's the defense Trevor Lawrence is playing. I get it. It's like, but somehow Andy doesn't have all the check marks. But anything that you're seeing here is the potential differentiator. Obviously, Zach's got to add a defense, but we'll just say that gets him up to a projection of like 90 once he picks his defense. But anything that you see as being the main difference or what we should watch for in this matchup?
Um, well, Ridley. I mean, Ridley started off. Ridley was pretty hot at the beginning of the year. Um, I'd like to see him get back to where he was. And the other league, I had Ridley and Kirk, and I bench one week, and the other one would do great. So I ended up getting rid of all of them except for Kirk. But
Okay.
I think really might be the one who might surprise if he just does what he's supposed to do. But I mean, it's San Francisco too, so projected wise, might be a little lower than what they could truly do.
But you know what I will say is I do think teams can pass on San Francisco. It's what they've kind of proven, and if they have a good enough passing attack, which I think that the Jacksonville Jaguars do, you know, they also have ETN they use a lot more. So it's like they have a good balance. But I think you're right. You know, that Lawrence Ridley, stack against San Francisco, that could be the differentiator in this game. Because if they get shut down, then it might just lean towards Zach at that point. But if they're able to attack San Francisco like others have been able to, then that'll give that edge to Andy, and he'll probably take this matchup. All right, next up.
Definitely wanting a lot from Ford going against Baltimore.
You think
Definitely.
he's expecting a lot, or do you like? Is
Well,
it
I think yeah, I think I would like to see him do that because Baltimore seems to be pretty good, but
yeah,
I don't know about that one.
yeah, and especially when he's splitting with Kareem Hunt right now, and I don't know if Ford's getting healthier. I mean, he probably is, but at the end of the day, he's still running on a bad ankle, and to me, that means it's going to be a little slower. So yeah, they kind of split the carries at that point too. So that's going to be a little bit tough. And I will say on Zach's side, what I don't normally like to. I mean, sometimes you can't avoid it, so you can't avoid it. But AJ Dillon and Najee Harris, so they're running backs in the same game going against each other. And it sounds weird, but it's like that's not normally a recipe for success. Like both running backs don't normally go off because oftentimes if a team is scoring, well, the other team's probably passing it, and then it just doesn't work out as well that way. So that's a odd one that you don't see, meaning like you don't think about it, but yeah, two running backs in the same game against each other doesn't often kind of again capture ceiling. It doesn't let you get as high of a ceiling on that. All right, we'll go to the next matchup, which is this is the championship from last year, Kyle. So this is Bro and Sis going against each other. We have no idea what Allison's going to do because she didn't adjust her lineup yet when I did this. And as you can see, got some pretty important people out. I mean, she's got her top two receivers as well as one of her top running backs. Really, Swift has probably been her top running back. Well, yeah, he's number 7, and technically Walker's 8. So you've got your number 1 wide receiver, your number 1 running back. So your top 2 receivers and your top running back out. That's kind of a tough one for her going into this coming week. I'm gonna look here, Kyle. Anything that you can see from Sam's side that might make the difference, or even if you see something on Allison's side as well. I'm just trying to see if what she has on her bench that she could probably play.
Oh, I'm looking over here at Sam. I'm Joe Mixon now. He's good. I really enjoy watching him play. I mean, and I know I feel like he'd be ranked better if Burrow would have picked it up,
Sure.
earlier, and they
Yep.
weren't relying on him so much and being able to, predict that they're just going to run it. I think Burrow comes back and he actually starts really passing the ball around, playing like he did the last 2 weeks. I think Mixon can actually shine, and he can, even if it's just red zone scores, at least get in the end zone more. They won't be expecting it as much if they got that dual threat from Cincinnati. But I
I
guess
agree.
yeah, I can't even see anything at Allison's side. I mean, I wanted AJ Brown, I might have but
She does have Jameer Gibbs coming back, so she'll put Gibbs in for Swift. So I know that will happen. But even Gibbs himself, he's had big games, but David Montgomery comes back this week probably. So if David Montgomery comes back, that definitely caps the ceiling for Gibbs. And on the other side, like I mean, she might throw Jonnu Smith out there instead of Donald Parham this week because Jonnu Smith has just had a surprising season for a tight. Not realizing that, but like he had a great game this past week too. But so she might do that, but she might have to go to the waiver wire and mess around there. Oh, I see. She also has Debo Samuel. So if Debo Samuel comes back from his injury, she'll throw him in there at wide receiver. So it actually might work out fine because she can move Pittman to wide receiver spot. She could roll with 3 running backs if she wanted to at that point. So she's got kind of a range of stuff she could do. She might even throw Jonnu Smith as her flex. Who knows? So she's got a lot of decisions to make this week. So we'll see who comes out on top, who is the best number 2 in their divisions. We will find out this week. All right. Next up is Bob. Bring it. Bring it, Bob. I am so ready. Oh my gosh, I want to beat Bob so bad. Um, but in all honesty, Bob's had a pretty good team. I'm getting lucky this week because he does not have Tua or Tyreek this week. Like I just kind of fell well in that matchup because those two guys are always scary. But I'm sure he'll beat me anyways, so I'm sure it won't really matter. But anything that you're seeing between our matchup that you feel could be the difference maker, or something that based on projection, I'm way ahead. Or something that you see that could happen for Bob that might put him ahead of me instead?
yeah, he's got Garrett Wilson out there, and I would truly like to see him do well, but I mean, I just don't trust Zach Wilson really. Every time he throws the ball, I feel like he's not trying to, because I feel like he doesn't know how to do it, but I feel like he's going to get one of those receivers hurt soon enough, the way he throws it into traffic and throwing it the way he does. But I'd like to see Wilson do good. Henry, I mean, it's just Henry is just so funny to watch him, because it's like when you think of Tennessee, we're going to give it to this guy, and he's gonna run, he's gonna throw one on the ground, and then he's gonna run for a couple 30 more yards after that. But
Yeah,
you never know. I mean, with this
that's
one here, yeah, it's
that's
tough
why we
to
play the game,
judge.
you know.
Absolutely.
But I would agree, Garrett Wilson. I'm a little upset. I feel like there was a good trade, um, but Wilson's been good. I mean, he's continued to play well. He continues to get into double digits and points every week. Even with a Zach Wilson, It's scary to think what he could have been with an actual good quarterback. But Garrett Wilson is still getting it done, even with a Zach Wilson, because he gets enough targets. I mean, he's going to get 10 to 12 balls thrown his way every week, and he should. He's one of the greatest or one of the best wide receivers in the NFL right now. So yeah, that'll be interesting. Hopkins could go off another one. Him and Henry. I mean, Henry always scares me. I never know what's going to happen there, but he's got a good squad. I just got kind of lucky this week with him not having Tua and Tyreek because that's really scary. But anything can happen each week, so who knows what'll happen this week? But Bob, I'm hoping to kick your ass. That's what I'm hoping. All right, next up is your game. So now you're going up against Casey this week.
Mhm.
What are your thoughts? What are you thinking?
I don't know. I hope Pollard goes out and does the same thing he did, against the Giants again. Then that would be awesome if he could put up, 29 points or whatever it was that he did. Um, Allen, watching the Chiefs go out there and mess that all up really kind of ruined my hopes for Allen and the Bills to go out there and stomp Denver a little bit. But
Sure.
looking at his side, you know, well, you got to get the tight end. Yeah, you still got to get the tight end in there. But Madison, yeah, I don't know. I got the Saints defense too, so hopefully I might be able to double dip on that if the Saints defense does a good thing there. But
That's true.
we
That's
you
true.
never know. But Hall could come out and do something good too. I know he didn't. He might not have had his best game. Um,
Yeah,
was it
Las Vegas isn't
yesterday?
very good either. So Las
Yeah.
Vegas
So
isn't a
he
very
he
good
might
defense.
he might show out, and I hope if he does, at least Pollard does too to kind of cancel him out. But I mean, we'll see. I'm thinking that's once he puts a tight end in there, he'd be projected. He'll have one more check over there, so it's about dead even right now.
Yeah, I think you're still going to edge him out in the tight end spot. I mean, Taysom Hill's been great, so that's one where he's your wild card, man. If he's
Mhm.
doing what he's doing, I'm upset I didn't pick him up. Like Kincaid's doing well, but I'd rather have Taysom Hill. I mean, for what he can do in that, I mean, he's gotten like 20 plus points in what, like 3 of the last 4 weeks or something. I mean, he's done something crazy. I mean, it's been really, really good. Tank Dell, I think against Cincinnati, they're going to have to throw. They're going to have to be able to keep up. So that looks good on that end. I don't like Jacoby Myers against the Jets, but I don't like anybody against the Jets. It's a
Exactly. Yeah.
so that's just a tough defense to play. I'm not a big fan of Rashad White against Tennessee because Tennessee's normally a tough defense to run against, but I don't know. Lately, I think the last
They have
couple
to
games
practice against Henry. Yeah, I
yeah,
can
like
see.
last couple games though, they haven't held up as well that Tennessee front line, so that could be interesting. And then it will be interesting to see what Allen. I don't think Denver's is good. I think that was a weird game for Mahomes. He was sick. He had a couple other things going on, so I think Allen will be just fine. Like you said, I have him in another league, and it's like that first half. It's like, oh, what is happening? Get it together, and then he ends up getting it together by the second half, and you feel good. I mean, he's the number one quarterback in the league so far, so doing just fine there. But this is, to me, I put two teams on the rise because you both are. You've won 3 of your last 4, and Casey has won 4 of his last 5. So two teams that are on the up. Your teams are playing well. This to me is probably the matchup of the week. I know I wanted to say that for Zach and Andy because I think it's a rivalry, but at the end of the day, I see this as the game of the week because I think you both are just on trajectories upward, and we'll see who might get stopped this week at that point. All right, and then I want to say this might be our last one. Probably not because I might be missing one. I don't have my deck in front of me, but we have the rookie showdown. So these two are rookies in our league for this year. They're not rookies of fantasy football, but they are rookies in the FFFL, which is what matters. And Glenn is looking way down again, but we counted him out last week, and he proved us wrong, and his team won. What's it going to take for Glenn to win this week?
Eckler to have another game like he did, really, and against Detroit. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a tough one.
Yeah. Who knows, Kirk? I mean, they're going to San Francisco is always a tough one. They've gotten exposed a little bit, but you can't ever count them out.
Yeah,
They got something going on over there.
and that's true.
Mhm. Looking, yeah, like I said, I'd like to see Cooper do good. I really would, but
he's going to need New England to play well because he has both Ramondre Stevenson and Demario Douglas right now in his lineup. I don't know if he keeps that. I think he hadn't adjusted at this point, but I'm pretty sure he has some people that are coming back off of a bye. I just want to check really quickly because I thought I had seen that. Excuse
Might
me.
look for a different defense this week, maybe, but
Oh yeah, he probably
yeah.
will look for a different defense. Let me see if he's adjusted. No, he hasn't adjusted his lineup yet but he's got Brandon Ayuk who is on bye. So Brandon Ayuk will probably take one of those spots. So we'll just say Brandon Ayuk goes into the flex spot. He also has like Damian Pierce, Jerry Judy, Romeo Dobbs. So he could throw some of those guys in if he wants. He's got a free bench spot, so he'll probably pick somebody up. And Khalil Herbert. So he has Khalil Herbert. Bears play on Thursday. If Herbert is healthy and playing, I'm assuming he's going to play him. So there goes another running back that could help out. So he may not have Demario Douglas into his lineup. I don't know, but we'll see. But Cole Kmet has been a great tight end. He's been one of the top tight ends, especially as of late with Bajent as the quarterback. He's looking Cole Kmet's way a lot, and so that's going to be helpful for him. On EJ's side, he's just got a good team. I mean, he's been putting up high totals every week, and I think he's still second in points to Louis, but he's not that far. He's not too far behind Louis when it comes to total points, and he's now first in that division. So it'll be a tough one for Glenn. But hey, Glenn, you proved us wrong this past week. Kudos to you, and good luck, EJ, because I think Glenn's coming for your ass. I'm just saying. Just saying. All right, this is our last one. So it is. It's Louis versus Tyler. This is our Ricky Bobby part deux, is what I put there, because it is. If you're not first, you're last, and Tyler, you are last, and technically Licho is absolutely first. So Louis is at the very top, Tyler at the very bottom. We'll see if what happens here. I don't know. Your dad has adjusted his lineup, so it looks like it is where it's going to be. As
I mean,
far as Tyler
he should
goes,
have put Stroud in this week. Yeah, I think you had him
well,
in.
no kidding. That's how I know he adjusted his lineup because he didn't
Yeah.
he didn't have Stroud in this past week, and he's probably upset about it. But you weren't going to do that. You know what I mean? Like you weren't. I wouldn't have put in Stroud. No, I mean Jalen Hurts. You're only benching him when it's by. So that's basically what's happening there. But yeah, Stroud's coming in against Cincy. Shit, two quarterbacks playing each other again.
Mhm.
Man, that'll end up being the deciding factor probably here. How do you think Saquon is going to do against the Cowboys, especially not having a quarterback?
I mean, that's the thing too. I wouldn't bet on him, doing good. And Saquon too is I already, feel like if you look at him wrong, he's gonna get hurt again too, which is I mean, I've only been like truly watching football for some years now, and Barkley is just one of those names that always pops up once in the season for something, So
Yeah.
on the other
What?
side, Metcalf, he's going to get ejected for throwing punches at someone eventually, so he might just go ahead and lose all his points. He seems to always get in a little fisticuffs with people, so
Yeah.
you never know with him.
I don't know what's going on with him this year either, man. I mean, he's getting targets, he's getting some, but it seems like he's just not winning battles. I don't know what's happening, and I'll just say that for a man that size, he shouldn't lose battles. Like he should be able
Exactly.
to win pretty much any battle he wants to, because he's AJ Brown but bigger. Like to me, that's kind of crazy that DK Metcalf is like just a bigger version of an already large man that dominates. So you'd think he'd be able to dominate more than he has been. So he's been a little bit down there, but it'll be interesting. I mean, Louis got the Cowboys defense, their number one defense in the league. I think that against Saquon is going to be tough. And to your point, I don't think Saquon will do as very well. He gets enough volume and he'll get enough touches. You're never benching him. That's not even what we're saying. We're just saying you might want to throw some people in your lineup that are very boom bust because if you're counting on Saquon to put up those points like he can, he probably isn't going to do it this week, and therefore you got to count on some others to do that. Like, do you think about that, Kyle, when you play, like when you put together your lineup? Like, you were talking before, and I don't know if you said it, but you'd said something earlier, like I think off air, that was to me rang true. Of I was asking you if your lineup was set, like this week, like is this what your lineup's going to be?
Yeah, no, I'll probably change it a couple times here and there. I tend to, I'll go back and I'll look at who they're playing and I'll see how the defense is doing and everything. And I might just be psyching myself out because I set it to what I think is good. First thing in the morning this morning, I got up and I set it, and then I'll change it 3 times this week or something. And I can't decide until it's game time. And then I just, sometimes I just have to quit watching football because I'm stressed out about it.
Yeah,
But it worked out this last week. But I'm very good at playing the wrong person, when it's like, oh, I don't want to play them. They're playing the defense who's,
yeah,
top 5 against the run, and then they end up going off against them or something.
yeah.
And it's how it is. So
I think it's easy to do that early in a season just because, we don't have enough data to know, is this team actually good against the run, or they play some crappy teams, who knows? And then unless you're keeping up with also defensive injuries, do you know how healthy a defense is? Do you know, like, do they, a lot of things that people talk about is like, do they play man coverage more or zone coverage more? And does this wide receiver do better against man or zone? And like, there's so many things that go into. I don't go that far because that's just too much. I don't have time for that. But I listen to a lot of podcasts that talk about it, so that's where I get my info for the most part. Um, but I'm with you.
yeah, I,
It's like,
I simply I read their little projection, and then if I feel it's something that needs to be studied a little bit, I'll Google it a little bit and see what's going on there. But yeah, when it's always split, or even picking players, they get split touches, then I'll actually kind of break it down and see who's actually done better in what spot, and if either of them are worth playing at that point. But yeah, I mean, when it comes down to it, there's some math behind it, but it's a game of chances. So.
agreed. Like it gets to be luck, as you said. Like you'll make all the right quote unquote moves, all the right moves, meaning based on stats, based on whatever. This is what you should do, so you do that. But it doesn't. It's not nothing's 100%. It's not going to always work out that way. So yeah, a lot of times it is a game of luck and chance. And I try to play it in a manner that when there are players that you should just never question, right? Like Tyler's always going to throw Joe Burrow as his quarterback. It doesn't matter who Joe Burrow plays, just like you're going to always play Josh Allen. It doesn't matter who he plays. So you're always going to have those players, but then there's always every week like one or two decisions that you're trying to make. And so for me, I go off of a lot of different things, but one of the things I think about is those players like a Josh Allen, like a Saquon Barkley, like these kind of guys that are like the important piece to my team. If I feel like they're in a tough matchup and therefore they may not hit that projection, even though they'll still do well compared to what others do, but they may not hit their projection. That's when I think, okay, my other decision will be instead of a consistent player like a Chris Godwin or a Michael Thomas that's going to get you 8 to 10, I'm going to go more for a guy like a Jahan Dotson type of player where he could get me only 2 points. That is true, but I I don't need 8 points. I need 18 points. And so Jahan Dotson could do that better than a Michael Thomas could do that. So that's kind of how I try
And
to
that's
play the
exactly where
game a
I'm
little
sitting.
bit.
I got Hunt, Kareem Hunt, and Thomas on the team, and I can't even tell you how many times I've played Thomas, even though every week it's just as consistent as the last, and he's getting, like I said, it's a lower floor at 8 points for a receiver, but he's consistently getting it. And
Yeah.
threw Hunt in there when I picked up Hunt off the wire. I was like, I'm playing Hunt, I gotta do it. But and I don't know if it worked out. I can't remember if it worked out for me that week, but
Well, we're talking for this
thought it
past
was a
week
good
because
move.
Thomas got 0 points. It's like his first time getting
Oh,
zero, but you're right.
oh yeah,
Every other
this
week, he is literally like 7, 8, 9, 7, 8, 9. It's like right there in that same spot. Which yeah, it's good, but then you'd rather get a Hunt in there where you're like, okay, I know I'm gonna potentially get like I could get 20 from Hunt,
mhm.
at that point. So just ways to think about playing it, everybody. But honestly, good luck to everybody in week 10. We are like, man, week 10 just feels like it's flying by. It's this season is
It always
flying
does
by,
too.
man. So not too many weeks left in the regular season. So we really are getting down to the nitty gritty of it all. To me, the best news is we've got like 5 teams at 6-3, and that's the best record. Like that's awesome by this time. 6-3 is a good record so kudos to those of you who are 6-3. But the fact that we don't have like an 8-1 or a 9-0, I love it, man. I think that shows that a lot of disparity, a lot of talent in this league, and a lot of people doing some good stuff, and people doing really well. So keep it up, and then shoot guys like yourself, like 4 wins and above, man, like that. You're right, friggin' there. Like we need the top 8 teams. Remember, everybody, top 8 make it to the playoffs this year. So the top 8 teams will make it to the playoffs. That's all we care about, right, Kyle? Like at this moment, I don't give a shit how I get there. I just got to get there, and it's a whole new season at that point.
Yeah, yeah, I can't believe it took me this long to get on here. This is actually pretty fun. Maybe I'll win some more games, you know?
Hey, could bring you some good juju. That would be nice. But
Yeah,
but yeah, Kyle, thank you for hopping on. It was great chatting with you, getting to know you a little bit better. I'm sorry that my internet had so many issues and we're
no,
running
not a
into
problem.
problems there, but I appreciate you. Good luck this week in week 10.
Yeah,
And don't be a stranger, all right?
of course.
All right. I appreciate you, man.
All righty.
Good chatting with you. And then I'm
Yep.
gonna stop the